Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the YouTube account and we're going to be looking at the place that most players absolutely love to hate, and that is the Stargazing room. So overall with the Stargazer, this is the place that you get your Celestial heroes, that you get your Hypo heroes. Also, when you start adding stars to Awaken heroes, this is exactly where you are going to build them. Now, of course, when it comes to a newer player to AFK Arena, there is a very big, very specific priority to maximizing the utility when it comes to your Stargazer scrolls, as well as the diamond. So I want to break down the guide from AFK guys. Big shout out to them and all of the content that they've been creating with the visual guides, which are incredibly difficult. So let's hop over. I want to show you exactly how to break this down so you can build the heroes that you really need to in the methodology and the order that you need to. So let's take a look at it. All right, guys, so here is the Stargazing priority. Again, big shout out to the AFK guys for putting this together. And you'll notice we have a ton of heroes on here, guys. So I want to break them down kind of one by one so we can understand exactly who we're building and the methodology behind them. So when we start in our very top left, very similar to what I have with my tier list that we put every single month. Since Libirda has come out, he has absolutely dominated every single aspect of AFK Arena. Thinking back historically, we've seen it with Lucretia, we've seen it with Ainz, we have seen some heroes that have just dominated for months or even years, and Libirda still has utility in every single game mode, does exceptionally well. Now, followed by Demia. Demia would be the second choice in here. And honestly, when it comes to Demia, she works incredibly well at a very low level. Now, that is important. Again, if you are a newer player to AFK Arena, having Demia very early will work incredibly well when you start getting those skills and abilities unlocked. And of course, utility-wise, has a ton of utility still in that very top SSS tier when it comes to building them out. Third one in here, we have Aurelia. Now, when it comes to Aurelia, the big thing with her is she does have an incredible amount of utility. However, she does require a higher signature item to really see the optimal build for her. She has to have engraving, also does have to have a plus 40 signature item, which of course, as an earlier player, me personally and my preference, I would build probably out Lava Tune before I would do Aurelia, just because of the build that she does kind of require. But even if you built her out first instead of Lava Tune, it wouldn't really be remiss at that point, because again, both of the heroes have such a crazy amount of utility, which of course, looking at Lava Tune utility-wise, again, doesn't require a very big build-out to have a lot of utility. If you take him, if you build him out, if you start adding signature item and furniture and engraving, his utility goes through the roof, and that is the reason why he is here. Then we have Nox. So when you start thinking of someone who is newer to AFK Arena, starting to see him rise into a bunch of different formations, even looking at a seal team, looking at a delay team, he's very hard to kill in the treasure scramble, which is where he's being used a lot. Also used in a couple other modes as a buffer. And of course, it's kind of crazy how he runs around the battlefield, but I definitely like the hero I like to build. But of course, he is a little bit more expensive to build. Same with Lucilla. Now, of course, Lucilla and Libirda do go together like peanut butter and jelly. They are run majority of the time in the exact same formation. Even though sometimes we do see them separate, they seem to really excel when they are together, especially when you start getting into PvP, because she will keep him alive. And of course, with utility, you want him alive with in-game modes. Then we look at Ulna. So that is right, guys. Ulna is still here. When you think of the Challenger store, this would probably be one of the heroes, absolutely 100%, that I would prioritize getting out of the store, because you have to have her ascended. The only way that Ulna works in the utility comes from the 9 of 9 furniture that she possesses. Doesn't require the 30 and signature item, doesn't require the engraving. It is the furniture that you need to get from Ulna. And then, of course, we have Chad, better known as Vathiel. And yes, ever since he's been released, we still call him the Chad. But Vathiel, overall, he's a buffer. He's a damage dealer, does incredibly well. When you start thinking of the tower, gonna do very well within the Celestial Tower. Has a lot of utility as a buffer, not so much as a tank, not so much as survivability, but still does have a considerable amount of buffing. And then we have Kelthin. Now him overall, it is damage dealer. It is the Hypo Tower. He is one of the driving forces in there, but still does pretty well in here with Kelthin. Now this was a hero that was used in the Nightmare Corridor, that was used in a couple different game modes as of today has fallen out of all of those game modes. So unfortunately, not really seeing that. Now they put Orthos in here, pretty interesting. Why Orthos would be in here, but overall, you do need copies of him, and we'll talk about that in a minute to unlock the rest of your collections. But Orthos does again have a little bit of utility. I don't know exactly where he's being used, but the twins, the same. They had a crazy amount of utility, even at a lower level. As it sits today, I probably wouldn't build them out. And a lot of the heroes, as we start getting further down this tier list, I wouldn't build out a majority of those. Once you have pretty much the first row built, that is going to be the priority. And even thinking again, as a newer player to AFK Arena, this very first row is going to take you an incredible amount of time to get all of these heroes up to Ascended, to get them up to 1 star, because you also have to think with the Stargazing priority, you also are going to work in the Awakened heroes as you continue to build them, as you're adding a multitude of copies onto them to get them to engraving and getting them to 1 star. It is going to take not only building out these heroes, but there are going to be other heroes as well. Looking at, again, Aziz is in here. We have PvP, which is really heavy. Right here, we have the delay team with the original version of Taylene. And then we have Ogath in here, only used in the towers. Valkyrie PvP occasionally, but not really. Kanisa and Rook. And then we have Zoreth in here. You'll notice, especially down here, which makes me sad, that Lucretia is right here as the trash tier, not really building. Again, all of these are really only tied to the tower. You're not going to see them used anywhere else. They're so far back in the meta. And even thinking of some of the heroes that are still used within different stores, definitely available. Now, looking at the Challenger store, we have talked about this quite a bit. You can see we have Zolrath and we have Orthos, and we do have Athalion here. Buy 1 copy. Now, it is required to have 1 copy of these heroes to unlock the collection. And you'll quickly notice, if you're newer, that you don't have access to a lot of the collections because you don't have either the Celestial or the Hippo that goes along with that collection. So if you do not have them, you have to get 1 copy at a minimum, which will unlock their collection. Now, thinking again of the shop itself, in the Challenger store, we have Alna in here, and then we have Orthos. You can see Merlin and Mulan in here. Merlin still, again, utility-wise, is still there for a lot of the formations. If you don't have any or everyone built, does require a very low investment, but utility for the hero is still very high. Then you have Mulan in here. Then it goes into right here with the original version of Aziz. We have Mortis, and then we do have Zolrath. But again, when you start thinking of the Challenger store, it's going to be years down the road if you're getting these with your Challenger store tokens alone and not building the hero out in the Stargazer. And honestly, looking at all of these heroes, Alna would be one, if you kind of followed this list, that if I got to the point of having, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heroes built in their entirety, Alna would probably be one that I would look at a Stargazing priority, as well as building out of the Challenger store at the same time. I know originally, multitude of years ago, that is how I built a lot of these heroes, is I was utilizing the Stargazer to summon them, as well as using the Challenger store to fill in the slots and fill in a lot of copies that I didn't have at that time. But guys, as you can see down here, the 1 copy wonders. This is another one where, again, some of these heroes can kind of come in. Even having a very basic, very 1 single copy can work incredibly well. Again, the delay of killing within the treasure scramble. Same with Flora, where when she flies, these are both part of the stall team and their entirety. Have some. Now look at the utility of Lucilla in here. That's the reason why definitely even getting 1 copy. Even Mahira, you will have to get a copy to unlock her collection, which is super important. Nightmare Corridor, Cursed Realm, 1 copy wonders. Now, of course, pull 1 copy of these heroes from various game modes. These are not your priority. These are not heroes that you want to pull, but 1 copy will work incredibly well in a lot of different game modes, and especially if you are newer. So guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Again, big shout out to the AFK guys, but let me know in the comments what you guys think about the Stargazing priority. And as always, thank you guys for watching.